Welcome back to the EAT101 Nutrition Basics series. Assuming you've watched previous modules, you've learned to untangle some of the jargon of nutrition. You're more comfortable with concepts like micronutrient and macronutrient. You have a grasp of what terms like protein, carbohydrate, fat, and oil actually mean. You also understand that what's in the food you eat has a direct effect on your health and sense of well-being. This is the module that brings it all together by showing you how to put this knowledge to good use when making food choices appropriate to your personal goals and values. To make informed choices, you first have to know what's in the food you're eating, or thinking about eating. And there are two main ways you can do this. One is reading food labels. The other is to look at nutrient composition databases. Now, not many of us are likely to look up the foods we eat in a database. So we're going to focus on labels, as it only takes you a few seconds to scan a food label once you know what you're looking for. When reading a label, the question you're really trying to answer is, does this food, beverage or meal have a place in my diet, pantry or fridge? The answer will depend on both the product and your choice of dietary approach. What fits well in a low-fat, high-carbohydrate diet may not fit as well or at all into a low-carbohydrate, high-fat diet. If you're intolerant or even allergic to an ingredient, then that's going to be a real deal breaker. That said, what's actually on a label? Well, there is the stuff on the front which amounts to advertising. It's mostly glitz and glamour to make you ignore the important legally required information normally found on the back or the side. On the back or side should be the nutrition information panel. It goes by various names, but it probably will look something like this or what we'll show you on the next slide. This is the important stuff because it actually tells you what's in the food you're looking at. At this point, it's worth you thinking back to previous modules so that you can be confident you and the labelers are on the same page when it comes to terms like protein, fat, and carbohydrates. In some countries, it's a legal requirement for food labels to contain the kind of information you see here. The upper part of this panel gives you some idea of the nutrients and the energy in the food. Here the energy is in kilojoules or kJ. Your labels may have energy in kilocalories or kcal. The two units are somewhat different, but Google can help you convert one to the other if that's of real interest to you. This example label gives you the bare minimum that's often legally required. Sometimes you'll also see things like fiber and even some vitamins and minerals listed, assuming the food has had those added back in. The nutrition information helps you answer questions like, is this a good source of protein? Is it high in sugar or is it high in fat? And really, does it fit into your chosen dietary approach? It usually also tells you if the food is high in sodium or salt. The quantities given are often given per 100 grams, as well as per serving. The per 100 grams column is fairly standard on most food labels across most regulators. Doesn't vary very much from country to country. The serving size, on the other hand, is often down to manufacturers to choose and can range from reasonable to ludicrously small, especially when they're trying to make it look like a food is lower in calories or lower in sugar or lower in fat than it actually is. So when you're comparing your options or when you compare back to what you want in your diet, focus on the 100 gram column. The ingredient list at the bottom of most food labels is usually provided in order of proportion, highest to lowest. The ingredient list is especially helpful if you or anyone you're buying for has any allergies or intolerances, or if you have other reasons for wanting to avoid specific ingredients, for example certain additives or preservatives, high fructose corn syrup or hydrogenated vegetable oils. Although label reading is highly informative, the numbers are just averages. And that's because the individual ingredients will vary in their own composition. Taking fruit, for example, or vegetables, they're going to vary based on the soil they were grown in, the time of year, and the climate, and how long they were stored. Nonetheless, the information on the label will let you answer the key questions about how well the food fits in with your diet and your goals. And that's really what's important. Let's take one really nice example to summarize some key points. This is a carton presented as orange, mango and passion fruit juice, or orange, mango and passion fruit smoothie. We've been told to have fruit in our diet, so juice seems the healthy and very much tasty option. You may remember from Module 4 that I don't personally advocate fruit juices to the majority of people. The fact that one glass of this juice contains 8 teaspoons of sugar should highlight one of the reasons why. Consider that this is a no added sugar product. The fruit that was all that was required to add up to 8 teaspoons of sugar per serving. That aside, let's look at the name and compare it to the ingredients. The name emphasizes orange, mango and passion fruit. And that's reinforced by the picture on the carton, which also shows us oranges, mango and passion fruit. But the legally required ingredient label on the back clearly shows that it would be more accurate to say apple, mango and banana. The name on the front only mentions the fruits that make up less than half the product if we're looking at the percentages. There you have it. Read what's on the legally required nutrient information panel and the ingredient list and make your choices accordingly. Do this for a while and it will surprise you what's in the food you eat. Alternatively, eat mostly foods that don't come with a label. Foods from the produce aisle, the fish counter, the butchery, out of your own garden if you have one. Eating minimally processed foods worked pretty well for our past generations, and it can work pretty well for you in most instances. When you do have food that does come with a label, read that label. If you're confident that you'll now never fall prey to any marketing tactics and never make any assumptions about food without verifying them with careful research, you can stop watching here. If, on the other hand, you have an interest in how food manufacturers and retailers keep making huge profits by selling foods that often don't support our health and well-being, while at the same time making us think we're eating healthy, click to watch Part B. Part B is where we're going to look at the labeling that makes foods look appealing but should really raise alarm signals.